guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and we are here now to answer all the activity in chapter 9. So, let's start. The first activity in chapter 9, also known as transport layer in 9.1.2.10, compare TCP and UDP characteristic or TCP and UDP characteristic. The instruction: drag each characteristic to its TCP or UDP delivery method. First, what is TCP? TCP transport is analogous to sending packages that are tracked from source to destination. Then UDP is provides the basic function of delivery data segments between the appropriate application with very little overhead and data checking, and UDP is known as a best effort delivery protocol. So let's start. Connectionless. The first is connectionless. The connectionless is belong to UDP. Then guaranteed delivery belong to TCP. Then less overhead belong to it's UDP. Then sequence message segment, this for TCP. Then fast transmission requirements is for UDP, and no acknowledgement of receipt also UDP, and then no order delivery also UDP, and the rest is TCP. Then order delivery and flow control. The flow control networks hosts have limited resources such as memory and processing power. Then the last one is session establishment. A connection-oriented protocol is one that negotiates and establishes a permanent connection between source and destination devices prior to forwarding any traffic. So complete. So let's check our answer. So correct. You have successfully matched each characteristic to its TCP or UDP delivery method. So let's proceed to the next activity for chapter 9. The next activity in chapter 9 is next activity in chapter 9 is activity TCP connection and termination process. Part 1, TCP connection and termination process. So the instruction is drag each descriptor to its appropriate place in the image to illustrate the three-way handshake of a TCP establishment session. So in three-way handshake of TCP establishment session have three descriptors: ACK, SYN, and ACK and SYN. So if the PCA send a SYN, then the PCB receive also SYN. Then if the PCB send a SY and ACK, then the PCA receive SYN and ACK. And then if PCA send a ACK to PCB, then PCB receive it to in ACK. So let's try to check our answer. So you have successfully illustrated the three-way handshake requirements of a TCP establishment session. So this is how the flow of three-way handshake of TCP establishment session. So the next is four-step process of TCP termination session. So drag each descriptor to its appropriate place in the image to illustrate the four-step process of a TCP termination session. So we have two descriptors here, FIN and ACK. In four-step process of TCP termination session, if PCA send a FIN, then PCB receive it by FIN. And then if PCB send ACK, then to PCA, then the PCA receive it ACK. Then the if PCB send a FIN to PCA, then PCA receive it FIN. So PCA send a ACK to PCB, then PCB receive it ACK. So I think that's that it that's it for four-step process TCP termination session. So let's check the answer is correct. So you have done successfully illustrate the four-step process of a TCP termination session. So let's proceed to the next activity for chapter 9. Where is the next activity for chapter 9 is TCP UDP. So the next activity in chapter 9 is TCP, UDP, or both. The instruction is drag the application layer protocol to its transport layer delivery method. TCP, UDP, or both. Three categories here: TCP, UDP, and both. So first, find the under TCP category. For TCP category, we have telnet, then I think it's HTTP, then another two SMTH, I think. Then the last one for TCP is, I think here, it's FTP. Then proceed to UDP category. UDP category have DHCP. Then IPTV, I think. Then BOIP, also UDP. Then last one is TFTP. I think TFTP for UDP. So this two is for both SNMP for both and DNS for both. So let's review it. Telnet, HTTP, SMTP, TP for TCP, UDP, DHCP, IPTV, VoIP, TFTP. So in both, under both SNMP, DNS. So I think done. So let's check our answer for this activity. So you have successfully matched the application layer protocols to their transport layer delivery methods. So all correct. So activity is done. So next activity, let's proceed to the next activity. Okay, so I think this is the last activity for chapter 9, and so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.